Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. This is our Sunday evening meditation where I get together with students, guide you in a meditation session, and essentially open up to whatever questions you guys might have. It's just kind of a question and answer period. But I will spend a little bit of time just kind of giving you a taste of the teachings of the Buddha after meditation, so you'll have a frame of reference to understand a bit about his teachings. But mainly it's just an open question and answer period. You guys can ask anything you like, whether it's about things you're seeing here in Thailand, things in your own practice, things you're seeing other places. You can let me know whatever questions you have when we get to that point. Well, what we're going to do tonight is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation, where I'm going to start with some chanting in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. You're welcome to chant along if you like. The chants are on a laminated sheet over there on the cabinet. It's important to keep in mind that if you choose to chant along, that these aren't rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer, anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer associated with his teachings, those aren't his actual teachings. So they used chanting during his lifetime as a way to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So he used it as a learning tool, as a learning device, where we use it as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So I'm going to be chanting as part of our meditation, and you guys are welcome to chant along if you'd like. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing some guidance, or I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating. But then there'll be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and anyone online will just meditate at the same time. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll just kind of share a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha with you, but mainly open up to whatever questions that you might have. So feel free to take whatever position is comfortable for you, and I'll come in with the chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Bhutang Mahakavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sankho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakeva Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vichacharanang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusrang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหะเกวาพุทธังมหะเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหะเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหะเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good evening to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. This is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. This is a primary form of training in addition to other things that the Buddha used in order to move his mind to enlightenment, because this meditation is actually targeting the core problem that is actually producing all the discontent feelings. To get to enlightenment is to eliminate all your discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't experience anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of that can be eliminated from the mind through training the mind. You're uprooting the causes and conditions that are producing this. So this meditation is actually targeting the root cause of these discontent feelings. So that's why the Buddha used this as a primary form of training. But there's other things that you would need, including other meditations. You wouldn't actually be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. You need to learn other things besides just meditation in order to be able to move your mind to enlightenment. But what this meditation is targeting is something called craving, desire, attachment, where the mind is longing, yearning. It's chasing after the objects of your affection, craving for things to be permanent. And when the mind gets what it wants, it experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, or euphoria. But when the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So you can train your mind to not do this anymore, where it's swinging back and forth and it's all shaken up. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You don't experience those discontent feelings anymore. You'll notice that your mind's focused. You'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Your personal and professional relationships will really be blossoming. They'll be at ease, where in the unenlightened state, you have a certain amount of bitterness and harshness and hostility in your relationships. And as you put that out, it'll all come back to you. And you might actually feel justified in that conduct. You might actually think that it's the other person who's causing you to be angry, but it's actually your own mind that's causing that. That's why you can eliminate it. Oftentimes people believe that it's other people that are causing these feelings, but you can independently verify how it's your own mind that's causing this. So this meditation, the goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes that's what people think, because we teach you to focus on the breath, and anytime their mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and come back. They think, oh, if I had a thought, maybe I'm not good at meditation. But that's not true, because even enlightened beings have thoughts during their meditation. The difference is that an unenlightened being will have a bombardment of thoughts where it'll be like thought, 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 thought. You might have had that today, right? Or you might have had a thought. You followed it for a period of time. You looked at it. You indulged in it. You were like 2 minutes down the road. You're like, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm meditating. And you bring your mind back to the breath. So you'll have thoughts during meditation, but you would like to notice them sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. So an enlightened being has thoughts during their meditation, but they notice it right away and they cut it off and let it go and come right back to the breath. And then there's this quietness and stillness in between their thoughts that an unenlightened being won't typically experience until they're getting closer and closer to enlightenment. So this meditation is essentially building this internal mechanism in your mind to be able to cut off and let go. Because now in your day-to-day life, let's just say you're checking into an airport and you thought your flight was leaving in about an hour, but the person at the ticket counter tells you like, oh, your flight's not leaving for 3 more hours. You can't check in your luggage yet. And you notice anger arising, because you'll notice it as a bodily sensation first. If you're developing your mind, you'll start noticing this tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull. This is the early warning system alerting you that you're about to get angry or frustrated. And when you notice that occurring, you cut that off and let it go. You're not suppressing your feelings or repressing your feelings. What you're doing is you're cutting it off before it even becomes a feeling. It hasn't even entered the mind yet. It's just a bodily sensation at that point. So you can cut it off and let it go there. But if you're not training your mind with this meditation, you're not going to be able to find it very easy to do that. Because not only are you developing the ability to cut off and let go, but you're developing mindfulness or awareness of mind. So you can be aware of what's going on in the mind. Oftentimes in the unenlightened state, we're not even aware what's going on in the mind. We're just kind of going through life and, looking around, doing things, eating some pad thai, some mango and sticky rice, getting some massages, checking out the elephants, or just kind of bopping around. We're not necessarily aware of what's going on in the mind. So this meditation not only is teaching the mind and training it to be disciplined to cut off and let go, but you can watch over the mind so that whenever you notice that ickiness that's starting to arise, you can cut it off. One of the ways that I think about mindfulness or awareness of mind is like a virus scanner on a computer. The computer will have a virus scanner running in the background, and if a virus lands on the hard drive, it will quarantine it and it will clean it up and get it off the hard drive. That's what your mindfulness is doing. It's like guarding the mind, so that when you're guarding the mind with your awareness of mind and you notice this anger, frustration, guilt, shame, stress, anxiety, any of these feelings starting to arise, you cut it off and let it go. You get it off the hard drive, so to speak. You don't even allow it get to the hard drive. You can cut it off before it even gets to the hard drive, so to speak. So this meditation is an important part of your journey to enlightenment. You're going to need to do this regularly each day, 2 or 3 times a day, building up to about 30 minutes per session. That's really all you need. And that might sound like a lot for some people, depending on what you have going on in your life, but there's probably certain things in your life that you can scale back, some unbeneficial things, that if you took those things out of your life or at least reduce them, you would have a lot of time to meditate. Maybe you're on YouTube for many, many hours, or maybe you're on social media scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Well, if you scale that stuff back, you would actually have a lot more time to do things like meditation. But you're going to need to learn other things too. Because one of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is people think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't true. It was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. It took him 6 years to get to enlightenment. So it's going to take you some time. This isn't like run to enlightenment. It's not sprint to enlightenment. It's a gradual training. You're walking to enlightenment. You're walking with the Buddha to this enlightened mental state. So this meditation is important, but you wouldn't be able to meditate your way to enlightenment. There's other things for you to learn, but you also wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. So I'm just going to stop here and see if you guys have any questions about anything you'd like to ask about meditation or anything that I'm sharing about the teachings of the Buddha, something you're seeing other places that you would like to ask questions about. We have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room. We have some up here as well. You can just get a microphone and press the gray button and we'll be able to hear you. You can keep it at your seat because the people online won't be able to hear you if you don't use a microphone. And then for those of you guys that are online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom electronically and ask any questions by unmuting your mic. So is there anybody here, anybody online that has questions? You have a question? Yeah, go ahead, Graham. I'm going to check online, see what we've got here.
Can you share more about the stages of enlightenment?
Sure. So what you do at the beginning of your journey to enlightenment is you're putting together the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha. I'm actually going to be teaching this tomorrow as part of our course that I'm teaching Monday through Friday next week. So the Eightfold Path is the core central teaching. That's what you're starting with, because you really got to get your arms around that, because everything that the Buddha teaches integrates into that. And that's like 8 individual dials that you're kind of tweaking your mind and getting it to perform better and better through cultivating wisdom, through improving your moral conduct, and through training your mind through the mental discipline. As you're doing that, you're going to notice that you experience what's called the jhanas. These are 4 preliminary phases that the mind goes through before you get to the first stage of enlightenment. So these preliminary phases, your mind is experiencing enhanced qualities of mind. So for example, like in the second jhana, you will have absorbed a certain amount of the teachings and trained the mind to a certain point where you no longer have a subconscious mind. In the unenlightened state, you have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and you're aware of your conscious mind, and it's polluted and based on what the Buddha teaches you, and you can independently verify. So you need to clean that up. But the subconscious mind is even more polluted, and the mind is unaware of this subconscious mind. So by the time you get to the second jhana, you have what's called unification of the mind, or oneness of mind, where you now can observe and notice and be aware of the entire mind. So there's these enhanced qualities of mind that your mind resides in all throughout your day as part of these preliminary phases that your mind goes through. And you know you're going through these jhanas because the Buddha describes what they are, and you can actually see that your mind's tracking along those and experiencing those specific qualities. Then, as you're in the jhanas, your practice kind of pivots. That prior to the jhanas, you were just working on getting the Eightfold Path together as well as you could. But as you do that and you start experiencing the jhanas, that's an indication for you that you've been putting together the Eightfold Path really well for an extended period of time. And now you start focusing on what's called the 10 fetters. These are 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind that you need to understand what they are. You need to understand the symptoms of them, how to eliminate them, and how to know that you've actually eliminated them. So now that you've been using the Eightfold Path and you've been generally training the mind to get rid of these pollutions, now in the jhanas, you start more specifically focusing on them. Because in order to get to the first stage of enlightenment, you need to eliminate the first 3 fetters. It's called personal existence view, doubt, and wrong behavior and observances. And you need to know what those are and how to actually eliminate them. When you get into that first stage of enlightenment, you'll notice a significant decrease to your discontentedness, that whatever anger and frustration or whatever it was that you were experiencing when you were off the path to enlightenment, it's just a mere fraction of that. By the time you get to the first stage of enlightenment, you're going to notice a significant amount of increase in your concentration and your focus and your clarity. Your relationships are going to be improving. Your mind's not enlightened yet when you're in the first stage of enlightenment. You're still experiencing discontentedness, but there's been significant progress, and you know that you're well on your way to get to enlightenment. And when you're in that first stage of enlightenment, your mind can't regress backwards from that point. Then you go to the second stage of enlightenment. And to get there, all you need to do is to be able to decrease the 4th and 5th fetter, which is central desire and ill will. You will have kind of thinned that out a bit. It'll still be there, but you'll have thinned it out. So once again, your discontentedness is decreasing even more. Then to get into the third stage of enlightenment, it's where you've eliminated all the lower fetters. personal existence view, doubt, wrong behavior and observances, sensual desire, and ill will. And in that stage of enlightenment, in the third stage, you're very rarely experiencing discontentedness, maybe like once every 3 months, once every 6 months. The people around you probably don't even know you're discontent. It's just internally within your own mind, there's like a little bit of ickiness. And it might only last for like 10 seconds or 30 seconds, and you're able to cut it off and let it go, and it's completely out of the mind. So it's very infrequent and it's very insignificant when it occurs. So you really need to be diligent in that stage of enlightenment, because you can become complacent because you're not experiencing much discontentedness. Your life is going like really, really well in that stage of enlightenment. And then the fourth stage, where your mind is actually enlightened, you will have eliminated all the 10 fetters. So not just personal existence view, doubt, wrong behavior and observances, sensual desire and ill will, but the higher fetters too, which is desire for form, desire for formless, conceit, restlessness, and then what we call ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. And I can go into details about what those are if you have questions about each one of those. But by the time you get to that fourth stage of enlightenment, there's no discontentedness at all. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, there's no discontentedness. Life is completely perfect. You're living the ideal life. You don't have difficulties and struggles anymore. Anything that you're encountering on a day-to-day basis, your mind easily knows how to, address that and figure out what you need to do to go to the next step. Where in the unenlightened state, you'll really struggle with each individual thing that it is that you're facing, because the mind just lacks wisdom about these natural laws. So when we talk about awakening to enlightenment, what we're talking about is cultivation of wisdom, that you're cultivating wisdom about the natural laws, that in the unenlightened state, you don't have wisdom of these natural laws and how the world truly actually works. It's kind of like when we lacked wisdom of the natural law of gravity, we fell down, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, and we cried and cried and cried because we didn't understand the world that we live in. And the same thing is true with these other natural laws, is that the mind doesn't understand how to have relationships. It doesn't understand how to interact with a boyfriend or girlfriend, a husband or wife, or with your boss or your coworkers. The mind's ego will make you think that you know what you're doing. And what the mind will tend to do with this lack of wisdom is it'll blame other people for all the problems that you're experiencing. And it just thinks everyone else is the problem. But when you start focusing in on this, you start seeing that your mind actually lacks wisdom, and now it's just a matter of cultivating wisdom. And as you do, and you train your mind the way the Buddha teaches you, you see the progress, and you go through these 4 distinct stages of enlightenment, where the mind ultimately is enlightened in that 4th stage. Mm-hmm. Other questions? Yes, sir. We have lots of mics around. You're welcome to help yourself.
In Western mindfulness, they usually say to breathe out from your mouth, but in Buddhist meditation they told us to breathe out from our nose. What is the difference?
Yeah, what you'll notice, at least what I noticed, and I think you will too, is that when you breathe in and out through your nose, it's more of an anchor, because you can hear that and it's very consistent. So usually focusing on the sound of the breath is really helpful, because what that is the Buddha describes it as this post or this pillar. If you can imagine, if there was this post or pillar and there were 6 animals that were tied to it, and they were pulling in all these different opposite directions, like the alligators going to the river, the birds going to the sky, the snake is going to the forest or what have you, and they're pulling in these different directions. And when they get to the end of the rope, they get yanked back to the post or pillar. When they pull and pull and pull, and they keep getting yanked back and yanked back and yanked back, eventually they're just going to sit down by that post or pillar. They're not going to try to pull anymore. They're just going to be calm by that post and pillar, because they realize, I can't go anywhere, right? So your mind is the same way. It's going to pull and pull. It's going to want to think about the past. It's going to want to think about the future. You're going to be in meditation trying to put together your grocery list or whatever it is that you're doing, right? And what you're doing is, there's the body, there's the mind, and then there's the person. The person is the combination of the body and the mind. So the person is looking at the mind and training the mind. And anytime the mind pulls, the person's bringing it back and bringing it back and bringing it back and bringing it back. And over time, consistent long-term training, your mind won't pull anymore. You'll still have thoughts during meditation, but you won't have craving. Your mind won't be longing, yearning, and chasing, not just in meditation, but in day-to-day life. It won't be pulling. So your breath is your post or your pillar. So by breathing in and out of the nose, you hear that like that. That's what your mind is focused on. That's the post or the pillar. So if you use the sensation of air over your skin or the sound coming in and out of your nose, it gives you that steady, consistent post. And that's not to say that you couldn't breathe through the mouth, because, everything around you is impermanent, right? Even being able to breathe through your nose, it's not permanent. There's going to come a day, which you probably have already experienced, where you can't breathe through your nose because you have a sinus infection, right? Or you have mucus or something like that. So you would like to be able to meditate anywhere, anytime, and not be attached or dependent to meditating in any one specific way, because your mind can even get attached to meditation. So there was a period of time where I trained the mind to be able to meditate without breathing through the nose. I was breathing through the mouth, right? Even though I could breathe through the nose and I was just fine breathing through the nose, I knew there was going to come a time where I wasn't going to be able to breathe through the nose. So I trained the mind to be able to breathe through the mouth. And I just focused on the sensation of air over the lip. And you can meditate this way. It's possible. But for me, I noticed much more benefit breathing through the nose. But some people, they don't have noses, right? A nose is not permanent. Not everybody has a nose in the world. So if they were breathing through the mouth, they could also get to enlightenment and they would be just fine. But what you'll most likely find is that breathing through the nose, it gives you more of that sound that can be your post and pillar. But you can also establish that with the sensation of air over your lip too. I've just noticed that through the nose, it just works much better. And you can try it and see which ways work best for you. And then you can use that as your primary way. But then if for whatever reason, you can't meditate in that way, you have these other 2 or 3 options available to you, which is always really nice to have. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, let me see if we have anything. I don't see anything online here. Okay, so you have a question? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have one more. I'm just wondering, what's the key differentiator between cutting off the feelings and suppressing and avoiding the feelings for the time being?
Sure. So if you were to suppress a feeling, it's once the feeling has come into the mind, you're pushing it down, and it's going to be very painful. It's actually going to hurt more than the feeling itself. And then that feeling is going to come back up because you're pushing it down, and it actually really hurts when you actually do it. Like physically, it can hurt, right? But if you're cutting it off and letting it go, even redirecting the mind, you're just training your mind to not focus on it. And you're training your mind to let it go rather than push it down. Your mind is actually letting it go. And this is what's going to ultimately transform your mind, because it's not avoiding a feeling, because you can get to the point where, as a human being, and this can sound very strange to someone who hasn't understood these things, but you can get to a point as a human being where you don't have any feelings at all. Right? Sometimes people think that feelings are good. And if I have a feeling, that means I'm alive and I feel so happy and excited. And then I'm going to feel sad and miserable and all these other feelings. And that makes me feel alive. And some people are attached to these feelings, but your mind just goes up and down and up and down at different times. And then when I say that, and I tell people, like, when you get to enlightenment, you won't have that. They think that, oh, you must just be flat. And that's not true. The enlightened mind is not flat. The mind is cheerful and bright and glad and uplifted. But instead of experiencing conditional feelings where the mind's going up and down and up and down, your mind is just always bright and cheerful and glad and uplifted at all times. And there doesn't need to be any condition met in order to be able to experience that. So in the unenlightened state, you're going to have feelings where your mind's going up and down and up and down. And in those situations, you find it very difficult to make wise decisions. And as you make decisions, it tends to produce unwholesome results for you. But by the time you get to the enlightened mental state, where your mind is completely peaceful and joyful, it's bright and cheerful and uplifted, you can actually make really wise decisions all the time, because your mind is capable of being able to bring forth all of its wisdom. So in these 2 different mental states, it's very strange for an unenlightened being to be able to hear that there's this other option, because we tend to think that it's just being angry and being frustrated, and that's all you've ever known your entire life, and maybe everyone around you is the same way. But now you're in a place where there's people who understand that there's this better way of life, that you can actually live your life and evolve to this higher consciousness where your mind doesn't experience that anymore, and you can just always experience the brightness and cheerfulness. So you're uprooting the causes and conditions that are producing those feelings so that the mind is incapable of actually experiencing it. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're not avoiding the feelings. It's that your mind is incapable of even experiencing it because the causes and conditions that produce it have been uprooted and eliminated out of the mind. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So what I'll do then is just thank you for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, there's opportunities for you to do that. In fact, tonight at 9 o'clock, I'm going to be teaching a class here where I'm going to start with meditation, but then afterwards I'm going to be teaching the life story of the Buddha, and I'm going to be teaching about sickness, aging, and death, because these were part of the motivators that motivated the Buddha to be able to go on this journey to enlightenment. And these are 3 important times in your life where you're experiencing sickness, aging, and death, and the people around you are experiencing that, and you might really struggle with those kinds of things. So I'm going to help you to understand why that struggle is occurring and how to actually eliminate it, while talking about the life story of the Buddha as well. And then all next week, I'm going to be teaching a course Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's called Experiencing the Jhanas and the 4 Stages of Enlightenment. This is where you can learn about these 4 stages of enlightenment in more depth than what we were just talking about, where you can understand how to move through these 4 stages. And all of our classes, courses, retreats, books, videos, everything I offer here is available at no cost. So if you would like to come here and learn how to experience this better way of life in this enlightened mental state, there's help here for you. You can find the details on our bulletin board over there. You can also find it on our website, and you can even come talk to me, and I'll get you plugged into the resources that you need to be able to really get started. So whatever you choose to do today, have a lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps I'll see you next time. Take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.